So we're obviously now in late June as of recording this and as of this going out. And at this point, obviously, we have FIFA 19's reveal. We've seen it. We haven't seen much of it, in fairness, but we've seen it. Club football is gradually getting back to pre-season training. Obviously, the World Cup's going on this year, so it kind of gets put on the back burner anyway. But at this time of year, and now I might be in the minority here because I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to football and FIFA and things, but I start thinking about things like FIFA 19 career modes and Football Manager saves and what will be like the banger save, I call it. What would be the go-to save to do? What would be the best save to do, or best career mode to do? And based on that, I've decided to do a video discussing, first of all, 10 English teams that will make brilliant career modes on FIFA 19. If this goes well, there'll be 10 rest of the world teams as well, because I've started a short list of that, but England is it's got 4 leagues obviously, and it just feels like the go-to league for career mode because of that. Plus I know it better, so it makes more sense for me. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We're going to start at the top league in England. We're going to start with a Premier League. We're going to start with a so-called big club, and we're going to start with one of the teams you're seeing in the background, Arsenal. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons to be Arsenal. Arsene Wenger has left after 22 years, was it? And as much as his reign overall was successful, by the end of it, obviously we all know they sort of became more of a meme than a football club. And if you're going to be a top football club, you can't really be a meme at the same time. It doesn't really work out. So obviously the aim of it for you would be to go in there, be the new manager after Arsene Wenger, and sort of, I guess, start a new dynasty for Arsenal. And obviously they're in the Europa League, get back in the Champions League for God's sake. And then obviously challenge for the title as well. That's where a lot of people think Arsenal should be. And just make them not a laughing stock, basically. It's very simple. It's literally that. Arsenal already have a good array of attacking talent. Obviously, you've got Ozil there, you've got Aubameyang, you've got Lacazette, Mkhitaryan, just to name a few. Defensively, Arsenal were a bit of a mess. That's probably the area you might want to strengthen. But realistically, you should be able to get Arsenal back in top 4, and then eventually, maybe even first season, challenging for the league. Get them back where they are, for God's sake. So that's my first recommendation, that will be Arsenal. For my second choice, and just to make a note, I didn't make this clear, it's in no particular order, this isn't a ranking, but my second choice, we're going to go for the other side of the spectrum. We're going to go back down to League 2, and we're going to look towards the National League promoted teams. Obviously, these are always 2 of the more common, I would say, career modes for many people. Picking a team from the National League, and I've gone with Macclesfield over Tranmere. Now Tranmere is perfectly acceptable career mode, so technically this is going to count as 2 teams in one, but I'm going to mainly focus on Macclesfield, because Macclesfield, I don't imagine a lot of people watching this are massively knowledgeable on the National League. Prove me wrong, but generally Macclesfield weren't really seen as title contenders. They weren't seen as the big boys, the most fancied team for promotion, and they've gone and stormed to the league title in the end, and they've won it relatively comfortably. You've got a lot of teams in National League that are actually quite well backed. Tranmere being one of them. Tranmere shouldn't be anywhere near the National League, which we'll talk about a little bit in a minute. So the fact that Macclesfield managed that was quite surprising to many, and they're probably going to have quite a difficult time staying up in League 2 in real life. That's going to be the aim for them. So for you, it probably should be that. Try and keep them up. Try and make them a respectable League 2 club again, because they were in League 2 not too long ago, about a decade ago. And then obviously look to build and try and keep going up, essentially. As simple as that. Tranmere will make a good career mode as well for a road to glory, or return to glory, I suppose. But as much as they weren't a Championship or Premier League, established Championship or Premier League club, I don't think anyway. They should at least be in League 1. So the fact they were in the National League for as long as they were was kind of shocking. So yeah, Tranmere also a good pick for this. We're now going to number 3, and we make our first venture into League 2. This one's going to be a quick one because, like many others, I despise this football club for obvious reasons. But in terms of a career mode, they do have a potentially good career mode, and that's Milton Keynes. I don't particularly think I need to go into detail why they're like shit houses of a football club, but as a career mode, they'll be well backed for League Two. They really shouldn't be in there. They've got a lovely stadium, and it was one of the best away days I went on last season. So, props to that, I suppose. And realistically, they shouldn't be in there. I think their aim was to at least be fighting for the Premier League at some point with the ground and the facilities they've got. But they're in League Two, and as much as I'd quite happily like them to stay there for as long as possible, actually I'd like them to fall further down if that would be a lot more ideal. But if you want to be with them, then there you go. They're good career mode for League Two. Number 4 is going to be something that has been on my channel for quite a foreseeable amount of time. It's been the main series on my channel in the first 6 months of its existence, and that is Sunderland in League One. Now, this is a perfect opportunity for a plug if you are new here. Check out my Sunderland career mode. It was a rebuild on Sunderland career mode. It started off in League One, so it was almost like it was this season coming up instead of obviously last season. And we look to take them from League One back to where they belong. So check that out if you're new. Yep, plug. Anyway, Sunderland in League One is quite bizarre, really. As a supporter of a League One club, I was thinking about it the other day. The amount of money they're going to have compared to everyone else through parachute payments, through just player sales in general. They've still got quite a few of their Premier League talent that was on loan last season that they're going to get money for, and it's unbelievable. And if realistically, based on that, they should walk the league. Obviously, football isn't that straightforward all the time, but they are they're far too big for League One. And obviously your aim would be to get them out of League One as soon as possible and get them back into the Premier League, because realistically that's where Sunderland should be. It's pretty much as simple as that. They've got a few decent players. Obviously they will have a few decent players brought in before then. So if you want a sort of easy start to a career mode, I suppose, and a long-term one, Sunderland will probably be the best bet for that. And I was going to sort of mix these up a bit, but while we're on the subject of League One and a team that's size doesn't really make sense in League One, we might as well go to the other side of the spectrum with my fifth choice, and that is obviously Accrington Stanley are also in League One, which is two completely polar opposites. Accrington Stanley, the fact they've even got into League One is quite impressive, really. They've stayed in League Two for as long as they have. They've on fairly small budgets, and they even won League Two, and they won it by a few points in the end, over teams like Luton, who are pretty bankrolled compared to other teams in League Two. And the fact they managed to get into League One was outstanding, astonishing. Obviously, the main aim for them would be to stay up, if possible, in League One. In real life, it's going to be really tough on them. But obviously, on FIFA, it would be to establish them in League One and try and continue the journey up, I suppose, get them to the Premier League. I mean, that's been quite a common goal on a career mode anyway. I feel like Accrington Stanley in FIFA. It's just this time you've got one less league to worry about, so silver linings. We're now going to make our first stop into the Championship, and there's a absolute crap ton of teams you could do in the Championship with different sort of levels of challenge and different sort of storylines and things to follow. Storylines, is that right? I don't know. But obviously the recently relegated teams are always they've got an appeal, the ability to rebuild and all three of these teams are established Premier League clubs for a few years, to rebuild them and get them back and make them even better, perhaps. So for this one, if you thought I was kind of cheating on the 10 teams thing for the Macclesfield and Tranmere thing, I can't really separate any of these three. They've all got their appeals. Let's just do Stoke for an example. Obviously, Stoke have gone down. Stoke have probably the most valuable talent at the moment as well, and they'll probably all be gone by the time FIFA comes out. But whether that affects the budget or not as well on FIFA, they'll probably have the highest budget in Championship. They brought that Nigerian Etebo, who looks bloody class. I feel like Stoke will probably be the big boys overall, and obviously the whole aim of it, getting back into the Premier League and establish them in the Premier League as well. Stoke and Swansea both had a spell in Europe at some point in the Premier League, so get them back there. Similar for West Brom, they didn't have a spell in Europe, but they established Premier League club for a few years. Get them back. Simple as that. for our 7th team, having talked about the teams relegated from the Premier League, it's worth talking about the teams promoted to the Premier League. And for this one, I've gone with Fulham. Now, first of all, from a personal point of view, I love the older style stadiums. I love them, and the fact, based on, I mean, we have no reason to not believe that the Premier League deal is still in effect with FIFA, where all the grounds are on it. To have Craven Cottage on FIFA is a thing of beauty. Honestly, I love the idea of that. I love the idea of Fratton Park on FIFA. I love the idea of the older style stadiums. Loftus Road is on FIFA as well. I love that idea. So first of all, the fact the ground's on there makes this career mode quite appealing to me personally. But Fulham are an interesting one in the sense they're based in London. They have fairly good recent history in the Premier League. Obviously, they got to the Europa League final in 2010, which isn't by any means it's pretty brilliant achievement, really. And they were relatively good in the Premier League, to be fair to them. It all fell apart in the Premier League, and it took them a few years to get back, but they are now back. They've obviously got Tom Kearney's a great player. Ryan Sessegnon, dare I say, a lot of you probably buy him anyway. So you don't even have to bother shelling out money for him in the transfer window. You've already got him. Obviously grow him, make him the world star that he could be. And yeah, keep them in the Premier League and get them back on the European stage, essentially, is the idea of that career mode. For me, I think Cardiff might also be another good career mode. Cardiff were less fancied to get promoted, I believe. Obviously, they're one of these teams. There are loads of teams in the Premier League that have been in the Premier League recently and deep down will want to be back. But I think if they were to be honest with themselves, they probably didn't expect promotion last season. So that would be an interesting one. Nice ground again on FIFA. So things like that matter to me, it would appear. So yeah, I would seriously recommend Fulham on for a career mode, and I think I will probably do a Fulham career mode because it's interesting to me, that one. For our 8th team, we're going with the European giants that are Burnley. Obviously they finished 7th, which, to be honest, they probably took advantage of a shit Premier League to get there, but the fact they got there is still a brilliant achievement nevertheless. In real life, they've been handed, I mean, I just can't help but feel sorry for them that they've waited to be in Europe for years and they've got Aberdeen. But on the game, they'll probably be in the group stages from the start anyway. So obviously you've got a Europa League campaign, and balancing that with the Premier League, and obviously in real life Burnley might struggle with that because Burnley, obviously their main aim is to stay up in the Premier League and keep there. But for you, try and do well in Europe and try and keep Burnley up there. Try and keep them there. Why not? You never know. They could become a powerhouse of world football thanks to you. For the penultimate team on this list, I wanted to do one that was in Champions League because obviously the Champions League is such a large part of the game. We've got the Europa League in abundance on here, so why not look at the Champions League teams? And I've gone with Tottenham simply because out of all of them, they're probably the most interesting one to start a career mode with. They've got a new stadium at this season, obviously, and that will be on FIFA. We believe it'll be on FIFA. And they've got such a good team, but yet they haven't won anything. Main goal for Tottenham is to obviously keep the stars, keep the main players, but win something, get them a trophy because they're desperate for it. And yeah, so Champions League football, new stadium, a team that really need a trophy. Tottenham are a decent sort of short-term challenge on career mode, I think, for FIFA 19. So Tottenham. And for my final team, this one's a bit out there, it's a bit different. I wanted to do a team that were a little bit unfancied, a team you might not expect to be in here, and I've gone with Bolton. As I said when talking about the Championship originally, early on in the video, the Championship is stacked with former Premier League teams, and Bolton are one of them. But the way Bolton have gone since they've left the Premier League, they've now become sort of one of the... They're at the bottom, towards the bottom of the pile now, and that's the same with Wigan and Blackburn as well. You'd probably say we're getting promoted into the Championship, and obviously Bolton only just stayed up last season, having previously got promoted from League One. They were very nearly relegated back into it. So Bolton are really at the bottom of the pile in the Championship. Not right at the bottom, that's debatable, but they're towards the bottom. And the whole aim of this one was to be first battle the big boys, try and battle with them and get promoted to the Premier League, whether it takes more than one season or not, that depends. And then once you can get them back into the Premier League, Bolton have a rich history in the Premier League. They were finishing 6th, 5th. They were considered one of the better teams in the country. Not the top 4, they couldn't really touch the big boys, but they were a decent team. They were getting into European competitions. They were getting into UEFA Cup as it was there. So I think the main goal by the end of it should be get Bolton back into the European competition, whether it be the Europa League first and then the Champions League, but just get them back into it. And I think Bolton could be an interesting sort of long-term one for those reasons. So my 10th team is Bolton. So those are the 10 career modes that I think will be the best, or some of the best that you can possibly do on FIFA 19. Be sure to leave any I've missed out in the comments. Say why they'd be good career modes. I probably have. There's loads of teams, so there's probably some in there. Be sure to leave them in the comments. If you're new around here, be sure to check out my Sunderland career mode. If you enjoy that as well, subscribe. That would mean a lot. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.